Good stuff.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't have much faith in you figuring this out.
Oh, Lynn's laughing real loud now.
I need
No,
to
I didn't either. I didn't either.
Actually, he's totally experienced in this.
No,
Good.
no.
Well, hey, Steve, now that you figured this out, you can jump into the classes.
Well, I'm in this weird corner here. Like it's, I can only go back this far. And so it's hard to, hard to.
But what if you just turn the computer a little bit and then worked out in your kitchen? We could still see you.
Well, I also have this light up here too. I'd break something. I should probably figure this out. I was all set to go and get a camera and get all set up, and then everything closed down in the world and don't know how to. I mean, I guess I could just order any old camera, but
yeah. But Steve, look, we can see Lynn perfectly right now. Like you could just literally work out in your kitchen.
How can you see Lynn? I can. Oh yeah, there she is.
Yeah. So how you been?
I've been pretty good.
Yeah.
I've been pretty good. This is, aside from the knee thing, which prevents me from doing a lot of stuff, this has been it's been a good reset. And like I told you last week, the shoulder is feeling really good. Now I'm not putting it through any huge strain, but I think the two of us are overall doing a whole lot better than many other people are. I mean, she still likes me. It's incredible that after 46 years and all this tight time together, she's on. I think, what is it, Lynn? Only 4 nights you sent me out to the garage to sleep.
Are you working out every day, or you manage to get a little bit in every day?
I'm getting something in most days. I really appreciate getting the skier. That was a godsend to me. When the announcement was made, whenever you guys made that decision, I think it was either the 13th or the 14th, and I went out on the 14th and I did a run, and it was either the 8 times 400 or 6 times 400 with 2 minutes rest between, and that felt great. And I thought, man, this is a terrific chance to get back and get running again. And then, the next day I started to feel the knee, and that gradually got better over 3 weeks. And then as I wrote you this morning, Pete, it was, just doing some easy skipping out in the deck. And I just, I did 1 up high, 2 up high, 3, and that one it felt like it took up about that much space on my knee. It was just a huge jolt of pain. I can't remember anything really ever like that.
Oh, man.
So that's, but the ski erg, sometimes I can feel it, but if I get if I kind of turn my knee just a teeny bit inward, that seems to be working. So that's really the only cardio thing I have until I can jump in the river in another month.
There you go. And do you have any little weights around at home? Like, are you using soup cans?
Yeah.
You using soup cans, or you got a dumbbell, or what are you using for weight?
He's got a bar from us.
Yeah, no,
he took a bar. Oh, okay.
Oh, I have over here, I have 2 15s, 2 25s, 2 35s. I have a 45 and 53 pound kettlebell. Emma Avon beat me to the 30 pound dumbbell, so I just have a couple of 20s. So it's, I figured that I should maybe fight her for them, but I know she could clobber me, so I just let her take them. But so I'm well equipped with stuff. It's but things like I'm a little bit nervous about squats, even things like push press. Strict press is fine, but just that little dip, sometimes I can feel it. So I want I want this to recover, the knee to recover ASAP.
So, it's like you said, though, it's good time. No better time now, I guess, to heal up these nagging things that we all have.
Well, it's really good for me, and of course for you guys and everyone else. I want the gym to be back open. On the other hand, if it were open now, if it had been for the past few weeks, I'd be going absolutely crazy, because I really am quite limited in what I can do, I think. And it has its good days and bad days, the knee does. So, I'm.
Yeah. Are you going to, so you're not sure if it's improving yet. You said you were going to go see Chandon and get some chiropractic work done, but.
I've seen him 3 times, and each time, I saw him yesterday, and each time I leave there a little better than when I went in. He's pretty certain that it's not a tear, that it's probably a pinch that's extended into the tendons. And it manifests itself in all different ways. But I was really pleased to find that he was open again.
That's good.
So tough to get any service on, in your body.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, most places like that are shut down. I'm gonna have to call him up and see exactly how he's running that, because I'm curious as to how he's able to open up.
Yeah.
Well, when I think they're having they're making sure that nobody is sitting in the chairs. So I think they have the appointment times
Right.
spaced out. So you come in, you check in, and they put you in a room. But then you are going in a room where someone's been before. So
Right.
it's that pervasive
Are they
problem.
deemed an essential service?
He says chiropractic is an essential service. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
There you go.
I'm just glad he can sit there and, even if it's not essential, it certainly is essential to me that I see him. So,
Yeah.
I'll stretch the definition of essential a little bit for him.
Yeah. Steve, aside from the injuries, you're a guy who will come into NCR twice a day on most days. And, your entire life, you've been super, super active. How do you think, without the injuries, you'd be handling being cooped up inside without the gym being closed? Or has it sort of taken its toll on you, and you are having to deal with that mental side of things, not being able to go into the gym?
Well, on March 11th to the 13th, I was down at one of the prisons doing a workshop, and in the morning of the 13th, I got on my smartphone and looked through my email and saw something that my sister-in-law had written, and they were down in California at the time, hoping that all of their kids could get down and see them. And one of them, who lives in BC, decided not to, because he had heard that when you cross back into Canada, so this was on the 13th, the 12th and the 13th of March, that when you cross back into Canada, you had to go in 14-day quarantine. So all that day in the prison, I was thinking, my God, I don't want to, go back across the border and be told that I, have to stay at home for 14 days, because that's 14 days without NCR. And it turned out that the guy didn't even ask me anything about it. I had no problem coming through the border. But, the big red flags were on that, I could be told I can't go there for 2 weeks. And then you made the announcement, you made that early decision that you were going to shut down. So, that kind of took all the pressure off me. But if I had to have been quarantined, and if you were still open, that would have been really, really difficult for me.
I don't think you were there when on the Thursday when I had to cancel the prime timers class. Yeah, you weren't part of that, eh?
No.
Yeah, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life.
I wasn't there either. I was in Montreal. How'd it go down? You were just
so sad, man. Well, with most of the gym, it was it happened on a Friday evening, and it was just we didn't have to deal with anyone in person until later in the week. But for the prime timers, they all showed up. There was a big crew of them on Thursday. And for those of you who are listening and don't know what the prime timers are, it's our basically a 55 plus CrossFit class. And I basically stopped them in the lobby, and I'm like, hey guys, class is canceled. And it was very fresh. No one was really closing their doors at that point, but we knew that you guys are the vulnerable sector. And I just had to kind of, no, they all understood. No one was mad or anything, but you could tell everyone was really sad and disappointed.
Yeah, it just sucks.
And I was just like, why? Fuck, as if this had to fall on me. I was like, yeah. And then, but you know what? 24 hours pass, and then we close the gym to everyone else. And that, to me, that was my favorite part about closing the doors to everyone is okay, now they'll really understand that this is a real thing. And but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's hey guys, I really care about you guys. And I don't want anything to happen to you. So please don't come to the gym.
Hmm. Have you been keeping in touch with the prime timers, Steve?
Just that little thread last week on email. Saul wrote, John Kennedy wrote, and Kathy wrote. Those are the ones I saw. And then I'm connected with John on Facebook, so he'll razz me about something that I write every so often. And so there's been the connection there. But I think that he's doing fine because he'll keep active with Sue. They do walks. They go out on their bikes, or they will soon. And John tries to get some jogging in, and I think he'll do some body weight stuff. So I think he's probably okay. And there are a couple of them that I know how dependent they are on their once or twice or three times a week with prime timers. So
Yeah.
I feel for them more than I feel for probably anybody else in the gym, myself included.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, they're lucky to have still the connections with the people that were in the class to kind of fall back on for a little bit of support. Like, Rez has been reaching out, and I've reached out to them, and you've reached out to a couple of them. And man, I feel for some of the elderly who are, stuck at home, and maybe they're more or less stuck at home until someone comes and picks them up, and they don't really maybe have that CrossFit or that social community to stay in touch with, even over social media and all this. Like I know you're a pretty social guy. How are your friends outside of CrossFit doing, like in the States and all this? Have you been keeping a pulse on how everyone's doing?
Well, yes. I've become more active on Facebook through this. I would say that probably a third of my group on Facebook are from NCR. And then the other 2/3 are people from high school, from my childhood, all from the U.S. And so in various ways, they're very apoplectic about this. And I've got a few people who I'm friends with who are living in Georgia now. And Georgia's all set in the next couple of days. Nail salons, hairdressers, barbershops, and gyms, which is, I look at those various things and I think, boy, that's a bad mix of things you're going to open up. First of all, it's just they all involve contact. So the people in Georgia, and one of them, has all sorts of pre-existing conditions, and she's probably 69 or so, 68 or 69, and I really worry about her, and she worries about herself. So I'm getting a lot of I don't know, anger mixed with worry out of the friends I have on Facebook and on email too, who live in the States. So that's kind of tough to channel myself through.
Yeah, in Georgia, are they recommending that the vulnerable populations like stay at home even though they're opening things up, or do you know anything about that? Or did you hear me?
You're breaking up a little bit. I heard you something about recommendation and vulnerable population.
Yeah. Do you know in Georgia?
No, I haven't heard any exclusions for them.
Oh, okay. So in Georgia, they're just like, they're opening it back up, business as usual. No specific populations should stay at home and all this.
I haven't seen that yet. I think if you want to go bowling, you rent the shoes that somebody else wore, and you rent a ball and you stick your fingers in the same holes that the previous person had, which doesn't really, and then you kind of wipe the sweat off your brow and you're in a world of trouble.
Right. So like for your friend there, it's almost like she's got to fend for herself in a sense.
Yes, and she spent a lot of time just at home, taking care of her, really looking out for number one. She's not going out a whole lot.
That's good.
But that was, so this was on the 15th or 16th, and I was in communication with Reza and saying, well, I'm going to go to the mission tomorrow. And he immediately messaged me back and he said, don't, please don't. And I wasn't in a position then to not go because I hadn't canceled. But, I went 3 times while they were doing their big transition. Haven't been in over a month. But every time I think about going, there's, Reza sitting on my left shoulder there, chirping at me to not go to the mission. So,
yeah,
Papa Rez is taking care of me.
Lex's grandparents were in Florida when all this happened, and they had to come back, and they drove up. We were walking Maddox outside, and they like drove up while we were walking Maddox, and I was like so angry at them. Like I gave them shit. Like I'm like, you guys need to just go home. Like they came to like they didn't come for a visit. They literally just wanted to drive by and wave to Maddox, and I'm like, listen, like I gave them shit, and I went inside, and I'm like, I just gave shit to like two old people. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why am I such an asshole? And then I was thinking about it, and I'm just like, you know what? If I can get through this thing without losing any of my friends, or even having to hear that they got, you know what I mean, like, or family for that matter, it'll be okay. You know what I mean? And then I also thought about how frustrating it is for you guys, or for anyone, right? Like for me, like we went, you know, every time you go grocery shopping, it's this thing now. It's not just getting food. It's like this like thing, and you gotta kind of like wash your hands more frequently, and just do all these things that you never even thought about. So it's like, it's just yeah, it sucks a lot. And like I'm not vulnerable, right? Like someone my age is not, you know, the kind of target of this virus. So it's like, yeah, it's hard. I'm just rambling on right now, but it's hard, and I feel for everyone.
Well, it's like that clip. I'm always thinking about that clip that I posted of Colleen, you know, talking about why we need to take that mindset, basically, of assuming that we have the virus, because we could be asymptomatic shedders, and we could be passing it on in any environment, right? And really, it's that vulnerable population that we're trying to protect. Steve, you don't seem nervous about it or scared or anything like that. Like, have you ever thought about this thing and you're like a little nervous about it at all, or what? Like,
well, I'm nervous on a couple of levels. I realize that going in and doing that workshop in the prison from, you know, March 11th to 13th, and we were very careful that we, you know, wouldn't shake hands, that if we were going to be doing anything, it would be fist bumps, and people were good at that. But also the nature of the workshops is 3 days in a very tight circle, so there were probably 16 of us in the workshop, me and 15 of the guys, and it's a tight circle. You know, we're just kind of shoulder to shoulder to each other, and there's lots of interaction. So I came out of there, you know, just wondering if, you know, maybe, you know, hoping that I hadn't picked up anything. And I was very careful. You know, I first thought, you know, 4 days, I made it through 4 days fine, made it through 7 days, made it through 10, made it through 14. But then, you know, the big nagging worry is, am I one of those ones who's asymptomatic? As it turns out, at this particular prison right now, only one guy has tested positive, and he's someone that got transferred in on the 14th, the day after I left. So I think, you know, I think I'm probably in pretty good shape there. And up that high in New York, all 3 places that I go to are far enough away from the city that the numbers of infected correctional officers and inmates is really small, much smaller than it is downstate along the Hudson River Valley. So I worried, you know, I worried about myself, much more I worried about, you know, whether I was asymptomatic and passing it on like, you know, like wildfire. But in my own personal case, you know, I'm never quite sure, haven't been sure how to think about this. You know, I'm 71, so I'm in that vulnerable age group. But I think, as I messaged you a couple of weeks ago, Pete, you know, I've never been on any course of medications. I have no pre-existing conditions. All those things that are problematic in a, you know, in a pure health sense, you know, not considering age at all. I've been really, really, really blessed that, you know, I've never had any of that stuff. I don't know what it's like to, you know, have to count my pills each day. I never smoked. I never drank. You know, I've taken, aside from eating too much sugar all my life, I've you know, done a really good job of, I think I've done a really good job. I know I've done a really good job of taking care of my body. So I'd like to think that, certainly not in terms of strength or anything like that. I certainly don't have the body of a, whatever year old, but with respect to things that might be wrong with me, that could be wrong with me, a pre-existing condition, I'm really lucky there. So I don't worry about it as much as if I had, hypertension or diabetes or asthma or any of those other things.
Yeah.
If I started, if I had a few of those, started checking them off on a list, then I'd probably be real worried.
Yeah, it's true. And yeah, not to mention you're out in Castleman, and I like when I'm visiting the in-laws out in Manotick, I just get this sense of comfort with the spaciousness of the town. Everything is more spread out. There's more property to hang out on. I don't know what it is now that I'm cooped up in the city here. I feel claustrophobic. Not just the fact that my house is a little bit smaller, but when I go outside, I've got a little porch, and then I'm on the street, and then there's other people also on the street, and we got to walk down the sidewalk, or you need to veer off into the middle of the street to get 6 feet away from everybody. It's a little bit weird, but out in the country, I know I feel much more comfortable. So you must feel the same.
Well, we definitely do. We're on an acre here. It's a small acre that's just our own, but behind us is, several acres that are easily walkable. And then only a 10 or 15 minute drive away is LaRose Forest. And Reza knows that pretty well from thinking about going up there and hunting. But that is, it's a zillion square kilometers with very few people ever in it, but lots of trails, lots of concession roads. And we try to get up there 5 times a week for a fairly long walk. And most of the walks, we don't cross the path of anybody else. So, that's a real blessing too, to be up here and be able to get out and not have cabin fever.
Have you seen any wild turkey in there?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yes.
Get out there, Rez.
Call because turkey season opens in 3 days.
Well, I could tell you it's not on the. It's right on the edge of LaRose Forest, where there's a whole big flock of them, about 20 of them. We see them a few times. I can give you the name of the place anyhow at some point. I'll message it to you.
Yeah.
Let's go, Rez. We gotta start hunting turkey and selling it.
I feel like if I kill the spring turkey hunt is only for male turkey, so bearded turkeys.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to harvest a turkey during this pandemic, I would feel like such a boss.
Dude, that would be the coolest thing.
I know. Like I'm just picturing like Lex telling Maddox the story, like when he's like, 10 or maybe even older, and being like, your dad, like you couldn't go to the grocery store, but your dad went out and got
the pioneer spirit.
Yeah, it would be so cool. It would be so cool.
Well, we saw one just a couple days ago. It was the most beautiful male that I've ever seen. It was just by the side of the road, had a couple of females near it, and just the way the light was coming in, you could see the bronze on the feathers and green highlights. And then one of the females was over on the other side of the road, and it was looking like it wanted to come over, and this big male turkey went and stood right in the middle of the road. We were just sitting in our car watching it, but it went right in the middle of the road, and the female went behind it. It was like a crossing guard.
Whoa.
Crossing guard at the corner of Bank and Sunnyside or something.
No,
kids going to Sunnyside Elementary. It was pretty cool, but that was the most beautiful male that either of us have ever seen.
Yeah,
So
that's cool.
Yeah, they're nice animals.
Did you ever hunt, Steve?
No.
Never hunted. You have friends that hunted?
No, not really. We used to go out with a BB gun and try to, knock off squirrels periodically, but I never was. Our next door neighbor was a big hunter, but my father never got into it either.
And Reza, I always thought about it. Like it was something that appealed to me, but I just never did it. And then Reza pulled the trigger, no pun intended there, and went and got himself a gun license, and now he's hunting. And this whole pandemic thing, it just adds a layer on for me. I'm like, man, I got to figure out a way to get out there and start hunting. Because whether or not it would actually affect the supply chain enough to limit our access to food, this whole pandemic thing, either way, I feel like it'd just be something fun to do, get outside and hunt some game.
Well, everybody who does it, sees it that way, that it's a different way to, enjoy nature. And a lot of people will say, well, if you're killing nature, how can you say you're enjoying it? But it's just a different way of doing it. It's, bird watching. It's just you kind of, you substitute out the binoculars for a gun and you're watching for something that looks like it's
Yeah,
edible. And
exactly.
The thing is that a lot of people don't understand about hunting is like the rules are so strict that hunters actually help the ecosystem. Like hunters are like, we serve a purpose basically. And like what happens if there's no hunters? Well, more people get into car accidents hitting wild turkey and deer and stuff like that. I mean, like Steve, you live out where you live. Like how many times have you hit a deer, you know?
Well, I in November of 2012, driving down to Syracuse for some screwy reason early on a Sunday morning, and going driving down between here and the 401 to get down to Syracuse. And beautiful clear morning. I was probably going a little bit too fast and came around a sharp corner, and there were 3 deer in the road, and I plowed into them and killed 2, probably
Whoa.
3, and it totaled my car, but I walked away from it. And so since
Wow.
then, I'm in favor. I'm the #1 advocate of a deer hunting season that's 7/24, 56, 365, or however, 52. Every single moment of the day should be open season on deer, because it was terrifying. I just they were there, and I'd always been told that if you see deer in the road, you accelerate because a car can always win the battle against the deer. But yet, when they were there,
Difference.
whenever there's something in the middle of the road, you put on the brakes. I slammed on the brakes, but it was huge what it did to the car and what it did to the deer.
It's,
And
so it's, I mean, that's just, it's one example of why hunting is a good thing. And, there's several examples. I won't get into all of them, but I will tell you guys an interesting fact. There's been 2 moose around Finley Creek that have been like ripping around.
No,
2 females.
moose.
wow.
Moose. Wild.
Oh,
Yeah. Like you can't even you can't hunt moose in this area, like in this hunting code, because like there's not supposed to be any. So that's another kind of positive thing to take away from the whole quarantine is like nature is able to kind of enjoy their land a little bit more than usual.
big time. I'm constantly seeing videos of animals re-entering cities and
Yeah.
taking over city streets. It's crazy all over the world. It's happening. It's kind of cool. It's sad and cool at the same time. It's like sad to think like they don't come because we're so we're populating the area so much, but it's also kind of cool to see. The first one I saw was the dolphins coming back to the shores of Italy.
I thought that was BS.
No, man, it's like, and even in Venice, there are fish in the canals now. Like people were fishing in the canals, and normally there's so much traffic. It's like imagine seeing squirrels and raccoons on the highway. It's like not going to happen because there's always cars.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that meme about Mooney's Bay?
No.
There's a thing about Mooney's Bay, and it's like this beautiful beach with white sand and like clear water. And they're like, it's clearly fake. And they're like, Mooney's Bay is back to what it used to be.
I gotta look that up. That's hilarious.
I have to too.
Steve, you were a school teacher professionally, right? That was what you did for employment, and I know that you're a thinker. You're a guy that likes to spend his time reading books and just being introspective and thinking about life. Is there anything that this pandemic has taught you? Any big lessons that you've been thinking about, or just the way that it's affected your life? Is there any way that you're starting to think about things differently in any way, shape, or form?
Oh, well, that's a really big question. I'm still processing it, and I think a lot of where my thoughts will go depends on how long we're in the current condition we're in now, how long we're social distancing or spatial distancing, depending on which definition you want to use, how long we're on lockdown, how things are going to change when we when we get back to whatever the new normal is. I think it's, kind of got to brace myself for things will, never quite be normal again, and how we conduct ourselves in the gym, how much space you allot for us each to have, and what we do at the end of a class, gathering in a circle, what exactly are we going to do there? There are infinite ways that this can play out going forward, and but I don't have my head wrapped around it yet, because everything is still so vague.
Mm-hmm.
What is going to be open and when and for how long, and hearing the guy from the States, I can't remember what his position is, but he's one of the big figures in health and human services, saying he thinks, summertime is going to be absolutely terrible. We're going to have another onset in summer.
Mm-hmm.
And up until that, I was kind of thinking, well, there's this talk that, the second wave will come maybe in conjunction with regular flu season
Mm-hmm.
in winter, but, we could be just 1 or 2 or 3 months away from a second wave. So I don't know. I can get flustered about various things at various times. I worry a lot about kids who don't have access to a computer right now, and they cannot channel into virtual learning that their
Yeah.
school is
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah,
And
that's a real thing. So I started volunteering for the Boys and Girls Club of Ottawa, doing this like fitness program, and it's one of the like they maybe have 3 or 4 programs right now, and that's one of them. And it's pretty sad. Like in my mind, on Saturdays when I do the CrossFit Kids, I get like a pretty healthy group of kids, like at least around 10, I'll say. And then with the Boys and Girls Club, I'll get like maybe 1. Like last week on Tuesday, I had none. And every time it happens, I'm just like, man, this really sucks, because these kids would love this. They probably just don't have access, So, yeah, you're absolutely right with that. It's really shitty. But I think some schools, like I talked to Liz and I talked to Britt, they're getting Chromebooks out to all their kids, so they're actually delivered them to them. So that's good. Yeah, that's really good. But I don't think if we the population of that demographic is probably much higher than what the schools can actually handle in terms of getting them all something in their hands. So yeah, sucks big time.
I mean, kids that are disadvantaged anyhow are so commonly they're behind in school just to begin with, and now they fall further behind because they're just nobody's tracking them. I'm thinking this. I'm thinking in terms of big cities, like Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver or New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago, all those places where there are just so many kids. The budgets aren't there for education, and there are so many kids that are just going to languish. They might have been a year or so behind grade level in reading, and boy, they're losing 3 months now, and I don't, I'm not even sure how you get kids to, a kid who's a 5th grader in their 5th grade year right now in 2019 and 2020, and how you can confidently say they're ready to go into grade 6 in September, knowing what their curriculum would normally give them in March, April, May, and June if it were a fully running school. It's a lot that happens in those final 3 or 4 months of a school year.
Yeah, I wonder if eventually maybe schools and libraries could partially open to allow them to come in and use the computers and like
that would be a hope.
Distance, just set up the computers 2 meters apart or whatever, and figure out a way to adhere to the social distancing rules, but also give them access to a computer so that they can at least get some e-learning. Yeah.
It's not an easy fix. I don't think but nothing is nowadays anyhow.
Yeah. One thing I'm realizing is how much even just the presence of other humans, like how much I value that. Just you know, you don't think about that kind of stuff. And I know, you know, like Reza doesn't mind the fact that we probably won't be able to give hugs to anyone for a while. Reza isn't a hugger, but you know, I'm someone who gives a lot of hugs and high fives and pats on the back and all this. But even beyond just that, like touching somebody else is just the presence, like having like a human physically next to you or around you. I don't know. Sometimes there's something comforting in that, and I'm realizing how valuable that is. And
Yes.
I reflect on the fact that I've got Jen and Johnny here, and you know, like you guys have your wives, and Reza, you've got Maddox, and you know, the people that are stuck at home with nobody. That, you know, that really sucks, man. That is a huge bummer, and you know, I feel for them. So, you know, trying to. Then I think back, okay, I should try to make an extra effort to reach out to those people like on a regular basis to make sure that they have, at least through video chat, you know, some contact with people. But then there could be so many positives that come out of this thing too, is the fact that the vulnerable populations, yes, it's elderly, but it's also those comorbidities that you were just listing off and rhyming off that you were thankful that you didn't have before. Is that maybe we're going to come out of this thing and a lot of people who never thought about it before are going to maybe double check to make sure that they have a good workout routine, and maybe they're thinking twice about what kind of food goes into their mouth, and you know, that could be a positive.
Oh, well, if it happens, it will definitely be a positive, and I hope that this doesn't leave everybody's minds and memory banks, you know, too quickly. And you know, a lot of people become, you know, reflective about the world we live in. And you know, we were talking a while ago about animals roaming freely. I mean, that should tell us a little bit about our impact on the world. And you know, as people realize you know, that they've dodged a bullet, then you know, I would hope that people do start thinking a little bit more about what they eat, you know, how they take care of their bodies. And you know, a lot of people that have been very neglectful of their health for, you know, most of their lives. And if they come out of this, and hopefully most of them will, all of them will, as many as possible will, then, you know, that might be a time to reflect back and think, okay, got to make a change now.
Yeah. Steve, what's your favorite movement to do at home? Your favorite CrossFit movement?
Well, the thing that doesn't bother me a whole lot are deadlifts. Those are fine.
Oh,
doing
nice.
tempo deadlifts the other day. I mean, I always like deadlifts anyhow, but you know, doing some tempo stuff, that was good. You know, I've become a real big fan. I think, as I said before, you know, strict press, just because that's something that you know, it doesn't bother the knee at all. I'm enjoying the skier, which I'd started to make friends with it back in January and February. So I was just absolutely thrilled that was still available. The Christiane, you know, talked to Reza about it and found out that there wasn't just one, but there was a second one. So she emailed me or messaged, you know, somehow got in touch with me, asked if I want one. So they picked up the two. She and Jamie picked up the two and hauled it all the way out here in Jamie's trailer and brought it in. And you know, we brought it in, and so it's there, my lifeline to cardio right now.
I love it. Are you the fact that the equipment is set up at your house now, is it starting to lure Lynn into it a little bit?
No, but you know, she has. I mean, she has begun for about a month now. She's been doing the video yoga classes with Adi Shesha, and just how many people have done this adjustment? How many places? You know, it's not just NCR. All these other places that are providing these video options for people. It's you know, it seems like anybody could do anything they wanted to by just searching around a little bit on the internet and finding somebody who's posting workouts online.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. And one thing is, it's making us realize how easy it is to stay in shape at home.
Yes.
You know, how amazing it is to have NCR and the actual physical location where we can all gather and, you know, do fitness in such an optimal environment. it's pretty damn easy to just get down to it and get some fitness in at home.
Yeah, I wrote you last week, Pete, about it, and I saw this when I finally found your message the other day. You'd mentioned the metalworking place in Ottawa, because what I would like to do is just get a suitable bar and put it between the rafters in the garage,
Yeah.
and work on that. I haven't done it yet because I just got the address. But I'm gonna see if anybody's there, and if they'd sell me a piece of suitable bar that I could put up there, and just hope that the rafters can hold someone, going up and down. Not that I'm going to be putting a whole lot of strain on them, but
I think it would be pretty good. I remember growing up in my rafters at home in my garage. I had a couple pull-up bars set up, and we were swinging around on a pretty good day. And as long as the momentum is going lengthwise down the beams,
yes, yeah,
and not perpendicular to the beams, I think
Yeah.
you could be okay there. And also,
Yeah.
you should also check out CrossFit.com. Has been posting a lot of old articles with the do-it-yourself equipment. Rez, did you ever make? I know Rez made back in the day a do-it-yourself med ball. He made a med ball out of like a basketball or something, Rez.
Yeah, an old basketball, cut it open, filled it with sand, taped it back up.
Yeah, and on
Ames profile picture.
and on CrossFit.com, they've got stuff like that for everything. They have do-it-yourself parallettes, do-it-yourself, even a climbing rope I saw the other day. I was baffled. For like $10, you could you could order off like the hardware store website to your house some, I think it's just basic climbing rope or like nylon rope, and they show you how to weave your own climbing rope, like a thick climbing rope. It's pretty cool. Like I want to do it just to see if I could get the weave.
Make your own rope.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
Did you learn during the pandemic? I learned how to make a rope.
Yeah, but it seems like you could make an entire gym for under $100. Like it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, we're all just so used to looking on the Rogue website and dreaming about like the perfectly made, welded together pieces of equipment. But man, there's so many cool things that you can put together yourself at home. And I mean, if you have all the free time now, it might be fun trying to make all this stuff.
Well, that's the garage mind ethos, isn't it?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
They had one recently about how to make like a row, like a ring row with a bed sheet. Did you see that, Pete?
No.
So easy and really, really simple stuff. All you need is a door frame and you basically tie a bed sheet at one end, hang it over the door frame, close the door snug, and you can do like ring rows with the bed sheet. Really, really basic stuff. So I mean, I'm just thinking about you and your pull-up bar like that. That might be like a temporary fix for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm up for any suggestions. The first 3 weeks was a real reset time for me in terms of just letting myself mend, and I've become a little more aggressive in the past week. But still, as I've said so many times in the last 45 minutes or however long it's been, I'm still really watching out for the knee.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to do anything that would jeopardize anything there. So, but an odd thing that does work for me that I do like doing are kettlebell swings. Somehow, even though there is some knee flex there, that doesn't bother me a whole lot. So those are something else that I can do pretty much with impunity. I've always liked doing them anyhow, but
that's
now
good. Well, that makes sense too, because it's a lot of hips. It's mainly hips, a little bit of knee bend, but.
Well, there's the flex in it every time, but yeah, and I'm trying to get better at, popping the hips, which you guys are always telling me to use my hips more. So, I can look, when I'm out on the deck, I can face towards the glass doors here, and I can actually see myself and see when my knees come in, which is sort of a revelation, because for 4 years now, I've just been going, and I know what you're talking about when you say, get your knees out, out.
Yeah. You know what? There's something to be said about a mirror. Everyone should see the mirror in the back there. Everyone chirps me because I've got a mirror in the back. But I don't have a coach with me, so it's the only way that I can get a little bit of coaching is just watch myself warm up and see if I or videotape yourself too. I've been videotaping myself a lot to see if how my technique looks and all this, but little things you don't think about or don't do normally that you're now are starting to come into play when you're working out at home. Yeah. Well, Steve, we'll let you get on with the rest of your day. Enjoy quarantine, and we'll chat again soon.
Well, that'd be good. I don't things are going well here. I miss the gym, terribly. Some of us on Sunday mornings for the last 3 or 4 weeks, Gabby, Charlene, Chris, sometimes Marnie, Jen Milligan this past week, Jill this past week, we're getting there in this format. And that's a really big thing, just being able to see people and talk to them. And,
that's great.
My routine, I'm up every morning at 4:30 and, starting reading almost right afterwards. So that's, this is even crazier than getting up at 5 o'clock so I can be in the gym at 7 o'clock normally. But so I'm not going to lose a bit of my ability to get up early when we get back to things
That's
being
perfect.
NCR.
You'll be primed.
Well, I think so, yeah.
That's actually a good, actually, before we leave, that's a good thing because you're a big reader. Why don't you give everyone 3 books that they should read while in quarantine?
Oh, Lord.
Come on, it doesn't have to be the perfect pick. Just
well, right
three solid books that you've read recently.
Well, 3 pieces of fiction, Beloved by Toni Morrison, and I'm looking again at Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. And for about the 9th time in my life, I'm trying to make it through James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. But, I'm probably going to fail for the 9th time again. I'll never make it there. There's a lot of sociology stuff, prison type stuff that I'm reading that, nobody else would want to. So I'm not recommending that. That's real important for me to, just kind of stay on top of that, because I really, as long as it's going to take the rest of the world to come back together, I have no idea when I'm going to be going back into a prison.
Yeah.
Those are petri dishes of, once this shit gets in a prison, it's going to be a really bad scene. There's a place, a federal one down in Louisiana, that's been hit really hard. And so, let's say that we're back in the gym in another 6 weeks, and school is, school's coming back in September. I don't know if the prisons are going to be ready to have volunteers come back in. But, I'm still trying to stay on top of all this stuff. But
yeah. What were you going to say, Raz?
I was going to ask the title of the last book that you said, the one by James Joyce.
Oh, Finnegan's Wake. Finnegan's Wake without the apostrophe.
Okay.
That's it's impossible. I've tried it throughout from the time I was maybe 18 was the first time I tried it, and every 6 or 7 years I pick it up and make some progress through it, and then just it's if you just do a Google search for any given page of Finnegan's Wake, or 2 or 3 pages, and just try to make any sense of it.
We'll see what you're talking about. Okay, cool. I'm gonna Google it right when we get off of this.
That's gonna be bad as me ever learning how to do a snatch properly. I don't know which is gonna come first. Probably neither of them. Probably destined to a life of failure for both. But I keep coming back to it. It's great seeing you guys.
It's good to see you too, Steve. Yeah. And we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Hang in there. Give regards to your loved ones in your circle.
We will.
And Reza, go easy on Ernie and Claudette, all right?
I will.
Yeah. See you, Steve.
All right.
Okay, bye for now. Thanks.